There are moments when you want to go back in time and erase your memories. Hello, I'm Serena, 32, and about 4 months ago, my 32-year-old mother-in-law, Lenora, 54, moved in with my husband, Elias. This occurred following her divorce from 58-year-old Warren after 20 years of marriage. Nobody in the family is certain of the actual reason behind their breakup. Despite my repeated questions, my spouse consistently claims he has no idea. After moving in with us for a few months, Lenora would scream herself to sleep. Her sobs were so loud that we could hear her through the walls. Her eyes were usually red the next day. She avoids me a lot, which I wouldn't mind if I didn't see that she acts normally around my husband, her other kids, and their boyfriends. She simply appears to stay away from me. So I decided to approach my spouse about it before I went to bed one night. "Serena, stop being so wild. My mother adores you." "She definitely does," I retorted. "She doesn't treat me badly, but when you're not home, she's in her room all the time." Maybe bring up marriage to her. What has transpired during our 6-month marriage? Dad called it quits after 2 months. That comparison is absurd. Your siblings are married and have spouses. What distinguishes myself from others? We just got married, like I said. I was nevertheless disappointed that she didn't enjoy being around me, even if I think he had a point. I made an effort to be kind, asking if she wanted to go for a stroll in the park with me, purchasing her favorite tea, and making sure she was comfortable. She refused everything. Her bedroom is meant to be the nursery, so I'm not sure how long she plans to remain, but I hope it's sooner rather than later. Elias and I had intended to become parents, but we had to put our plans on wait in order to tend to his mother's wounded heart. I didn't mind having her living with us other than the baby situation. That is, until I discovered the reason behind her dislike of me. Betty, Elias's sister, and her 2 children arrived for supper. It was Betty, Lenora, Elias, and the 2 children seated around the table, savoring each other's company. Elias abruptly stood up and said he was sorry. After a short while, he returned carrying a box. "Oh, Elias, that wasn't right." Betty made fun of him. "You're very funny," he answered. My husband handed me the box and said, "Here you go, sweetheart." "What is the event?" I inquired. "Well, I realize I missed our 6-month anniversary, but work has been killing me. I wanted to give you my apology before we reached 75. I discovered a lovely flowery outfit when I opened the box. I hadn't saved enough money for it, but I had been admiring it for a few months." "Elias, you really shouldn't have. I'm grateful. It's really lovely." Glancing around, I noticed Lenora's dejected demeanor. She flashed me a half-smile when she saw me staring. She said a feeble, "How lovely." I went upstairs to hang the dress to prevent wrinkling after supper. The family was gathered in the living room, with the exception of my mother-in-law, who vanished out of nowhere. I didn't mind because she did that frequently. Betty told my husband and me she was going on a date the following week as we were seated and chatting. Would it be possible for her to borrow some jewelry? Since the father of the children, Betty hadn't gone on a date, and that didn't work out. Naturally, I accepted and made my way to my bedroom. My mother-in-law was standing against my closet. "You should not be in my bedroom," I inquired. "How come? How come you are in my bedroom?" I said it again. "All I wanted to do was browse your closet. You look very lovely in that outfit." I had no idea that would cause problems. I answered, "It's not," but I wasn't sure why. After nervously standing there for a short while, she returned downstairs. To be honest, it was sort of a nuisance, which is why I don't know why I said it wasn't. My husband and I immediately went to bed after Betty and her children left. I usually sleep very well, so when I heard my closet door open, I opened my eyes wide. Lenora was standing beside my closet. She had my exact attention. Considering how late and dark it was, I was humiliated. I was unable to even talk. Rather, my mother-in-law closed the closet door and went out of the space. I had trouble sleeping the remainder of the night. When my spouse awoke the next morning, I informed him what I had witnessed. My mother. I think you're kidding, he said. Why would I make such a joke? I caught her skulking about our room. I stated that, and Lenora came downstairs immediately. Lenora, would you mind chatting for a minute? To you as well, good morning. Could I please have a cup of coffee first? What's the point of acting like I didn't see you last night? I inquired. What are you discussing? In my closet, in my bedroom, I reminded her. Oh my God, do you still insist that I search through your closet after supper? I said, No, I saw you in the middle of the night. Oh no, sweet youngster, I wasn't that person. Have you any nightmares? I'm not sure. That seems to be the case. She laughed and continued, You must really not like people admiring your outfit if you're dreaming about it. She'd come close to convincing me it was all just a horrible dream, but I wasn't quite persuaded. I didn't sleep well the following few nights, but it was kind of a good thing since I remained up to see whether my mother-in-law would return to my room. However, weeks passed with nothing happening, so I quickly forgot about the experience. Before things became strange once more, it was my husband's promotion dinner. He got me a dress and asked me to wear it. I had admired it long enough, so I did so with pleasure. The fit was off, which was the issue. My waist was excessively constricted by it. Oh, honey, I assumed you were aware of my dress size. Naturally, I do. A 4 is what it is. And sure enough, when I checked the tag, it said 4, and it was from the brand I typically buy. Upon closer inspection, I saw that the waist of the dress appeared stretched, as though someone who was a bit larger had chosen to try it on. Oh, honey, you didn't notice this dress was defective. What? That is not possible. He saw what I saw when he held the garment in his hands. That's impossible. Well, anything. I didn't give any thought to pulling out another clothing. My spouse appeared to be distracted when I picked it. I ought to have faith in him. That evening, we had a good time. Due to his mother's divorce, we hadn't gone out together in that way in a long time. But when we arrived at our house, his mom was sitting on the couch with her back to the front door and appeared to be unhappy. Mom, you okay? I am, of course, fine. Why wouldn't I be? She lost her temper. Oh, what's wrong? She hung her head low, then gave a patronizing shake of it. You know, ever since your father abandoned me, I've been going through a rough patch, and even though a few months have passed, I'm still not well. I would have liked to have supper with the two of you, or just the two of you. You know, you got promoted. I wish I could have witnessed your celebration. Mom, I apologize. Really, I have no idea what to say. As it stands, Serena and I seldom ever go on dates. She murmured, Yeah, it's my fault you guys don't go on dates. Serena added, Well, kind of, yes. Serena? Well, I won't apologize for that. If we're being forward and honest about it, we deserve a night out together. And you shouldn't either, Elias. Whoa, say that you wish I would get out of here. Why don't you? You're not aware of my struggles. She got up and went into her room before any of us could speak. Elias grumbled, I don't know why you had to say all that. You know she's going through a hard time. Well, I don't see why she's attempting to cast blame on us for spending a date night. We are free to express our emotions if she is. Elias simply massaged his eyes in annoyance rather than saying anything. His mother now made a point of avoiding me. Things took a turn for the strange at this point. I dressed for work the next day, wearing formal pants and a lovely top. I'm employed at a legal office as a receptionist. This blouse fits me wonderfully every time, and I've worn it hundreds of times. However, it was swollen today, and to make matters worse, the area under the armpit felt damp. I never perspire as much. I removed the garment and gave it a close look. The blouse was unbelievably stretched. The moist places at the pits were the worst of all. I looked at my arms, and sure enough, I was not perspiring. I took out another blouse, and the problems persisted. I didn't have time to solve the issue because I was late for work. I managed to unearth a salvageable shirt by reaching all the way to the back of the wardrobe. However, I was somewhat frightened. How come my garments looked like this? Unless someone deliberately wore my clothing and stretched them out, there was no logical explanation. While at work, I started to consider the potential causes. Maybe it was ridiculous, but I had this weird thinking. That was necessary. My mother-in-law was the only other person my size in the home. She was a little larger than I was. No. Why? Why would she act in such way? That is absurd, peculiar, and bizarre. I choose not to share these ideas with anyone. I wanted to give my mother-in-law the benefit of the doubt, even though I knew I shouldn't have. I remained up long that evening watching to see whether my mother-in-law would come into my room. Regretfully, I was unable to stay awake for too long before falling asleep. Upon awakening and commencing my routine, I discovered that my toothbrush was damp. I was being eaten alive by my paranoia. Is my mother-in-law here? Anything from ruining my toothbrush to stretching garments and causing pit stains. Why in the world was it raining again? I was putting on my panties as I was getting ready for work. I drew the line at this point. I pushed up my panties and felt them expand. No, she didn't merely put on my freshly laundered undies. I removed them right away and sniffed. Elias. He hurried upstairs and ruined his clothes with coffee. Baby, what's wrong? Your mother. What? I understand that this may seem absurd, and perhaps it is, but it doesn't bother me. Your mother has been using my toothbrush and wearing my stuff, even my underpants. I have a vengeance against this woman. What makes you think that about my mother? She would never act in such a way. Please don't act as though you are unaware of how she is around me. My mother loves you. Where is she now? I must speak with her. Serena, I swear to God, you and I will have to wonder how long this marriage will continue if you trouble my mother with your delusions when she's still in despair. My mom is a rock. I detest witnessing her suffering following my dad's actions. Please don't tell me anything unless you have concrete proof. Yes, I do. The garments are elongated. They have an odor. The washer may be that. Perhaps a new one is needed. Knowing he would refute anything I said, I ended the conversation there. How did I miss the fact that he was a mama's boy? Explains her decision to live with him rather than his brothers. I would provide the proof to him if he requested it. I went to the closest store that evening to purchase some sleuthing supplies. 2 covert cameras. Verify. Speaker. Verify. All I needed was that. I returned home with 2 fictitious plant pots to cover up the cameras. I have a plant for you, Lenora. It will invigorate your space. Why? Well, Serena's trying to be nice. After saying, okay, thank you, she looked back at the television. Eliza's eyes were telling me he was observing a change in her conduct. I'll put this in your room for you. I put 1 camera in her room and 1 on my bedside table facing the closet. I was summoned downstairs for supper just as I was about to inspect her closet. I slept well that night, confident that I would soon receive a response. I didn't even bother to glance at the front of the closet the next morning. I rummaged around the rear for clothes and left for work. I looked at the video on my phone. Regretfully, she hadn't stopped by our room. I began having self-doubts on the way to work, wondering whether I was just having hallucinations. I had trouble concentrating on my work. I took another look at the camera footage during lunch. I looked into my restroom and there she was, my mother-in-law. I listened to the audio using some headphones. Something electric, like the sound of an electric toothbrush, was audible to me. I felt like throwing up. How often did she act in this way? She walked out of the restroom and over to my closet. Lenora reached far into the back of my closet, as one might imagine. She started humming to herself. She then, to my horror, undressed to her underwear and spread out my skirt and top. She let out a frustrated sigh when the cloth tore. He would adore you, of course. She whispered. He likes what he sees. Horrified, I watched. She was murmuring, but soon she was crying, and I could hear it. She took a seat on my mattress. I guess Mom would be really proud, Lenora, that your husband's passionate stare prevented you from keeping him. She purchases a vase for me, acting naive, amiable, and kind, as though it will make a difference. Did she believe that I had cheated on her husband? No, that is not possible. What evidence did she even possess? Oh well, she murmured as she examined herself in the mirror. This did not clarify anything. On the contrary, it raised additional problems for me. I informed my supervisor that I wasn't feeling well and left work early. In an attempt to catch her in the act and finally put an end to this mystery, I floored it. To avoid her hearing me pull into the garage, I parked down the street. I cautiously made my way into the home and looked for her using my live camera. Lenora remained on my bed, gazing intently into the mirror. I inhaled deeply before walking inside the room. She looked at me, startled. "What are you doing here so early?" I said, "What in the world are you doing?" ignoring her query. "It's so embarrassing," she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. "Lenora, why are you doing this?" Bitterly, she said, "You really want to know?" I said nothing. "This is so awful. I shouldn't have to explain this to you. My husband, ex-husband, Warren, when we were intimate, it's not your concern," she yelled. "I'm going to make it my company. You've been rummaging through my stuff, ironing my clothing, and giving me the creeps. I'm entitled to clarifications." "All right. Warren spoke your name to me while we were intimate. Serena, Serena, oh." My heart broke. When I asked him about it later, he pretended nothing had happened. During dinner, I started to notice how he was staring at you, how you entered the room and his eyes brightened. You're gorgeous, appealing, and youthful. What could he not enjoy? Then, he filed for a divorce and I ended up here, with the woman I despised the most. But I didn't do anything. I objected. "Please." "You enjoyed the attention," sneered her. "Oh my God, no. You will no longer behave in this manner. I apologize for my unintentional involvement in your relationship, but this behavior, putting on my clothing, brushing my teeth, it's finished. You have 1 week to vacate my property." "What? Why? How could I possibly leave?" "I don't trust you, Lenora. I could never leave Elias, even if you informed him of what you observed." "Perhaps not. However, you might want to reconsider if he and the rest of the family watched the video." When I flashed my phone to display the live camera, her eyes widened in panic. I told her not to bother because it had already been uploaded to my email when she attempted to take it. It terrified her sufficiently, even though I was lying. "Listen, Lenora, I apologize for what occurred, but I detest what you did. You require assistance." She only sneered and took off my clothing. I was going to discard them anyhow. Elias received no explanation from my mother-in-law when she moved out a week later. Her daughter stayed with her. I believed it was best to tell my spouse the truth even though I felt horrible about the situation. When he viewed the video, he was taken aback. Betty and he intervened on Lenora's behalf. In a year, she has not missed a single day of therapy. We haven't spoken to my father-in-law in 3 years.